How's it going, everyone? It's all your boy Marshall John 1000. Today is January 22nd, 2021, and today we're going to obviously focus on the major Northeast snowstorm that is likely to happen at this point and bring potentially over a foot of snow over a large area of the Midwest and Northeast. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first taking a look at the GFS model 108 hours from now, so approximately 5 days from now, right around Tuesday 12 p.m., right around noontime, and you see that there's a large area of not only snow extending through the mid-Atlantic states and the Midwest, but heavy snow. As you see the heavier bands of snow, you see the darker blue contours shown in this map, which represents much heavier snowfall rates than what was initially expected from the GFS. If we look at the last run from the GFS model, you see that there wasn't nearly as much snow, but now the GFS over the past several runs has been leaning more towards a major snowstorm that will not only affect the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but the entire Midwest. And fortunately, unlike yesterday, now since the GFS is leaning towards forming a major snowstorm through the Midwest and the Northeast, like the European was saying this entire time, it's now becoming more likely that we're going to see, it's pretty much likely at this point, we're going to see a major snowstorm in the Midwest and the Northeast. And what that also shows is that the Europeans' case when it comes to the forecasted snowfall accumulation might be a little bit more correct than GFS, because the European was already initially right, and the GFS could sort of be playing catch up right now when it comes to catching up to the Europeans' forecast model. And it takes several days sometimes it takes several runs for the GFS to really gain the confidence to really follow what the European model is saying, but that's just speculation. It's based off of my experience, because I know the GFS model tends to do that, tends to play the catch-up game, but we have to wait and see. But I would lean a little bit more to the European model since it's slightly more reliable. But if we take a look at the forecasted radar for the GFS model, you see that 3 days from now, there isn't much of anything. There's a little bit of a trough moving through the United States, but this trough is going to be too weak to do much of anything. Maybe some scattered snow showers in the Great Plains and the Midwest, but nothing major. However, this trough is important because it will be the same trough that's going to bring that jet stream further down and really create a pronounced jet stream dip to create a lot of unstable air in this region to eventually form the low pressure system that's going to dump major snow throughout the Midwest and the Northeast. And the reason why is because this trough is bringing strong northwesterly winds, since there's a strong pressure gradient between a small ridge and this low pressure system. And that's going to bring the cooler air down and create unstable air mass in Texas. And as a result, a low pressure will form. This will be low pressure that will dump major snow. And by early Monday, you should begin to see the rain all throughout the southeastern states and extending to the Ohio River Valley. And very soon after, you're going to see that snow begin to form in the Midwest, more specifically in Kansas and Iowa, where the air is going to be just cold enough to receive snow, and heavy snow at that, because it's going to be quite strong for a little bit initially as it moves up the Midwest, because there's going to be a strong dip in the jet stream, and there's going to be just a lot of convection on the eastern side of this storm, and it could lead to severe weather in the southeast, so watch out for that. But there's a strong area of convection, there's a strong dip, and that's really all you could ask for a low pressure system during the winter that wants to become a major storm. And this is poised to do that based off of what we're seeing. And you see that the snow band extends, and going into late Monday, you see the snow is still over Iowa, it's still over Kansas, as it's going to snow for several hours for you guys, potentially over 12 hours. And then you see that the snow becomes really heavy when it crosses right around the Ohio River Valley, and it's going to be very close to Chicago. So Chicago should be watching this very closely, because while in the GFS you're missing out on the heaviest snow, there's still that possibility that if it moves just several miles north, you're going to be in a major snowfall threat for Chicago, where you could be talking up to over a foot of snow, as that's certainly a possibility now with this snowstorm. And this snow extends to Ohio and Indiana, and you see that on the eastern side of this storm, you begin to see that rain change over the snow right around the mid-Atlantic states, and there's going to be a lot of precipitation on the eastern side of this storm, because with this low pressure system, there's going to be very strong southeasterly winds that's going to bring a lot of that warm Gulf water vapor filled air to the north, and as it encounters the jet stream that was bringing that dipped enough far south enough that was bringing colder than average temperatures to the Northeast, it's gonna force a lot of that water vapor to rise, and as a result, the eastern half of this storm will get pounded by rain, and which will eventually change over the snow, and eventually later during the run, in fact, form a new low pressure system on the eastern hot side, killing off this low pressure system. And that's really the big question when it comes to how much snowfall you guys should expect in the Northeast, because while the GFS is leaning towards a very heavy snowfall threat still for the mid-Atlantic states like New Jersey, New York City, Maryland, Delaware, and even as far south as Washington, D.C., the European isn't as lenient of doing that. And the reason why is because the European isn't expecting this low pressure system to be as strong as the GFS, as it doesn't think there's going to be enough unstable air to really maintain the strength of this storm to really bring as much snowfall to the mid-Atlantic states. It's still bringing a good area of 3 to 6 inches throughout the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area, but it isn't like the GFS, where the GFS is taking nearly a foot of snow right around the mid-Atlantic states. Let me show you guys the forecasted snowfall for the GFS model. As of right now, it's subject to change. We're still approximately 3 to 4 days out. However, I will say from yesterday, the confidence that there's going to be a major snowstorm is a lot higher, which is definitely good news that we at least have certainty. It's better to be certain than uncertain, even during dire situations like a snowstorm. But you see the GFS is taking 6 to 12 inches throughout a good area of Pennsylvania. This extends just outside of New York City and very close in proximity to Philadelphia. While the European, if we compare the snowfall forecast to from the GFS to the European model, you're going to see that the European model isn't as lenient as bringing as much snow to the mid-Atlantic states as a result of a weaker storm, and it doesn't expect as much convection as the GFS model, since the storm there won't be as much unstable air. So let me move forward to the 6-day snowfall forecast, so you guys really get the better picture of how much snow is forecast for the mid-Atlantic states. And you see mostly an area of 3 to 6 inches extending through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York for a lot of the states. So it's definitely lower, but there's still snow expected, and it's pretty much almost certain you guys will see at least accumulating snowfall from this snowstorm, especially in Pennsylvania. For those like in New England, you might miss out on this snow, because it's expected that this snowstorm will stay far south of New England to bring major snow. So I would say it's less likely you guys will experience any more than an inch or two of snow in New England, unless you're in Maine, where you could receive some snow showers, but it won't really be associated with this particular snowstorm that I'm talking about. But you see the GFS, what's also interesting is that the GFS is now leaning towards bringing up to a foot of snow in a lot of areas just north of the Ohio River Valley. We're seeing areas of 13 inches, we're seeing areas of 11 inches, and you see the darker greens, which represent snowfall totals between 12 to 18 inches. And the European is also feeling the same way. However, the position of where that the 12 to 18 inches of snow will be is a little bit different, because in the area where the GFS is expecting over a foot of snow, the European is expecting more so around 8 inches of snow, right around there. It's still major either way, but not as much. So we can't really make in like a guaranteed forecast just yet for this region, since there's still some slight variations. And in the European, it's taking over a foot of snow throughout Iowa, northern Missouri, and even extending to Nebraska and Kansas, while the GFS is leaning more towards the 3 to 6 inch category. So there's definitely a lot of specific details forecast models need to iron out over the next several days, and I will make sure to keep you guys updated when that happens. However, I'm happy to see this day come where the forecast models are a lot more confident than they were several days ago, and even as late as yesterday, where we were seeing just the computer models completely different in terms of what of who's getting impacted by snow. But now it seems like there's a lot more confidence of who will at least receive like snow from this storm. It isn't like one of those cases where there's still uncertainty whether you're going to receive snow or no snow at all. It seems pretty certain in the areas where you are seeing snow, you're gonna where you're under the snow forecast, you're gonna see at least some accumulating snowfall. How much is still uncertain, but the computer models are definitely gaining more confidence as a result of that. So you might be asking, what could change the snowfall forecast for you guys? What weather factors need to change for you guys to receive potentially maybe more snowfall or less snowfall? It really all depends on the jet stream dip. For one thing, is because if the jet stream dip is a little stronger, this means that the storm will be stronger, and as a result, the entire Midwest and the Northeast will experience more snow from this. Especially the Northeast would benefit. I don't want to say benefit, but especially in the Northeast, if there's a little bit more of a dip in the jet stream, it would definitely enhance the chance of much higher snowfall, even more so than in the Northeast and the Midwest, because that means that the low pressure will be strong enough to bring a lot stronger southeasterly winds on the eastern side of the storm to create a lot more convection on the eastern side of the storm, which would prolong the period of snow for the Northeast. Because in the Europeans' case, since the low pressure is weaker while it's still bringing major snowfall to the Midwest, since the storm is already initially weaker in the GFS model, which I'll show you guys right now, since the European is already initially weaker by the time it reaches the Midwest than the GFS model, that means that the pressure gradient between the ridge that's currently located in the southeast and the low pressure system will be weaker, since the low pressure system is weaker, which means that there's less of a chance that there's going to be strong winds, since the pressure is already a little bit too high for a lot of air molecules to filter in at a very rapid rate. So the southeasterly winds will weaken significantly if the storm is weaker in the European model, and as a result, there's going to be less unstable air mass in the Northeast, and pretty much just less westerly winds that would bring the warm, moist Gulf of Mexico water vapor to the Northeast and be forced to rise aloft in the Northeast, which would mean less snow for you guys. So taking a look at the the European model, you see that the convection in the mid-Atlantic is definitely there, but the European just kind of kills it off, as it doesn't think that there's going to be as much humid air being forced up into the Northeast to really create a much more major snowfall threat for the mid-Atlantic. So that's still uncertain, and also the position of this will need to determined because it depends on these two ridges right here. Any slight variations could make a huge difference in terms of how much snowfall you receive in, like, let's say in a city like Chicago, where Chicago is one of those cities that I think is borderline with this storm, because you could either see only around 3 inches of snow to over a foot of snow depending on the track of this. So it's going to be a very close call for a lot of these cities, especially in the southern Great Lakes area. And for the mid-Atlantic, it's even more uncertain depending on how much unstable air there's going to be on the eastern half of the United States. So we just have to wait and see. However, the confidence of this storm is a lot the confidence in the snowfall accumulation forecast is a lot better today than it was yesterday. So that's definitely good news. So here's my current snowfall forecast. Thanks to the increased consensus with the computer models and the increasing agreement of the computer models, I'm gaining the confidence now to really give you guys a an exact snowfall accumulation forecast, rather than using vague terms such as heavier snow or heaviest snow. So I'm giving you the exact snowfall forecast when it comes to inches of snow, and you see that I'm expecting a large area of 6 to 12 inches of snow. This extends from Kansas all the way to the Northeast and right around Pennsylvania and upstate New York. However, I want to emphasize that there is still a strong possibility that a lot of these areas, especially more so in the Midwest, will receive over a foot of snow. I would have put the 12 to 24 inch category in some of these areas, but I just want to see how the computer models forecast this storm just a little more before I really say with confidence that you're going to receive over 12 inches of snow. However, to play it safe, I've just put 6 to 12 inches of snow throughout all the Midwest. It is subject to change. Keep in mind, there's still the small details that could change, and those small details can make a major difference in terms of what impacts you'll see. But you should at least expect a major snowstorm from this, especially along these regions where you're in the pink in the Midwest. And the Mid-Atlantic should be watching a little more closely because it's still a little bit more uncertain. However, the chances of accumulating snowfall is pretty much inevitable at this point, or very close to inevitable. So keep that in mind. 3 to 6 inches just north of that and throughout the Mid-Atlantic, and this extends as far south as Washington D.C. So the southern states might not miss out on this, and this extends to northern Great Lakes as well. So even if you're not in the 6 to 12 inch category, 3 to 6 inches is still a lot of snow, and you guys need to prepare for that because it could definitely cause havoc on the roads. And then 1 to 3 in New England, as it seems like this storm is going to stay mainly far south enough to bring much of any snow to New England. There's still that possibility that maybe the snowstorm could move a little bit more north. However, the chances of let's say the 6 to 12 inch category moving all the way to New England seems unlikely at this point, I would say. And this is pretty much a much better estimate of how much snow you'll receive than yesterday's forecast for the United States. So definitely prepare, keep and watch of this. And for the Midwest, this should hit you guys right around Monday, and then for the Northeast, you could experience impacts as early as Monday night, as this is going to be a very elongated storm, because while the low pressure is going to be here, the convection will extend all the way to the eastern half of the United States. And in fact, a new low pressure system will form just off the coast. So the precipitation should extend for a long period, over a long area. So keep that in mind and just prepare along the Midwest and extending to the Northeast. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys